Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Diary from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the world of wrestling inside the AEW world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my AEW All In pay-per-view summary. So this will be my summary of the All In main card that transpired last weekend in the world of wrestling. So on the card, you've seen the first match, you've seen Pat, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta defeat the Bang Bang Gang, the House of Black, the Patriarchy, to win the AEW Trios titles in this great ladder match. So my thoughts on the match: this was a great ladder match to kick off the AEW All In pay-per-view card, the main card. All 12 wrestlers played a part in this ladder match. I know it's tricky nowadays to have any type of wrestling match with a total of 12 wrestlers in it, but everybody part of this AEW ladder match made it work. A lot of high-risk spots. It was a physical, grueling ladder match, but I thought this was a good way to start it off. Juice Robinson, in my opinion, was the MVP of this whole entire match. He was willing to take punishment and do a lot of great risks and basically entertain us, the fans around the world. Christian Cage was a great heel as well in this match, disappearing when the bell rang, went MIA, and then came running down the ramp again when it came fitting to him, when the opportunity presented itself. That's when Christian Cage got in the match. He presented himself as a great heel. I don't know what's going to happen with Pac now being a trios champion with Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. I don't know if Pac will officially be a part of the House of Black. The Blackpool Combat Club. But I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the trios run goes with Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta as the trios world champions. For the next match, you had Maria May defeat Toni Storm to become the new AEW Women's World Champion. Now, this was the best women's match I've seen in a very long time in AEW. On this podcast, I've been very critical of how the AEW women's division has gone. It's had its ups, it had its downs. But this match between Maria May and Toni Storm, this was hands down the best women's match that I've seen in a very long time in the women's division in AEW. Now, Maria May is a homegrown star here in AEW. How she turned on Toni Storm after she won the Women's Owen Hart tournament, to set up the seeds for this AEW Women's World Title match for the All In pay-per-view card. This was great for Maria May. And now looking at it, this match had several near falls and had a lot of great storytelling with Maria May winning the match and becoming the new AEW Women's World Champion. A star was made in Wembley, and I think she's going to have an amazing AEW Women's World Title run. And hats off to Toni Storm, who did everything in her power, even changed gimmicks over the last year or so to make this AEW Women's roster even more exciting, to boost it, and she brought a lot of prestige and honor to that AEW Women's World Title reign, to her reign as the AEW Women's World Champion. Now, the next match, you had Hook defeat Chris Jericho to become the new FTW World Champion. Now, honestly, this was the worst match on the card. And it seemed like the pictures I saw on Twitter/X, fans were using this match to have a bathroom break and to get away from Chris Jericho wrestling. And that's not a good look for Chris Jericho. And hopefully this is the end of the feud between Hook and Chris Jericho. It's been a long time going. Obviously, the learning tree, it's not, I'll just say it's something not to look forward to on a weekly basis for AEW television. But Hook winning, I think that's a good call. I hope Chris Jericho really takes time to step away from AEW. And I say that with all due respect. The man is 52, 53 years old. Chris Jericho is not the same Y2J of the past. He's not the same Chris Jericho that sprung onto the scene in 2019 when AEW got started and when he became the first ever AEW World Champion in the company's history. I think Chris Jericho is just becoming bland, and I think he's not burnt out, but he is running out of ideas. So I think it's best for Chris Jericho to take a hiatus away from AEW, take some time off. But the next match on the card, we had the Young Bucks successfully retain their AEW tag team titles against FTR and the Acclaim in a triple threat tag team match. Now, with the Young Bucks retaining the titles, I thought it was a really fun match, and all three wrestlers did a good job making this match good. Hands down, I would say AEW has the best tag team division all across the board, across all wrestling promotions right now. And with these three teams, how can you really argue that with the Young Bucks, FTR, and the Acclaim? But the chemistry that these three teams have is tremendous. It's remarkable. It was fun to watch during the AEW, during this All In card, especially when it was their time to shine on the pay-per-view. And the spots, I like the spots during this match where you have the other members of other teams hitting tag team finishers on the other wrestler. I thought that was pretty cool. Definitely a match that was pretty good and something to be proud of for the tag team division. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Young Bucks continue their reign as heels, as the EEPs of this company, as the AEW Tag Team Champions. Now, next match, you had Christian Cage win the Casino Battle Royal. I should say Casino Gauntlet match, excuse me. Now, this was probably my favorite AEW Casino Gauntlet match in the company's history. From a wrestling standpoint, this gauntlet match was pretty good, very entertaining. We got some surprises. Nigel McGuinness, who has been retired from wrestling for a very long time, looked like he was in pretty good shape and did pretty good in his return to the ring. You also had the debut of Ricochet, who left the WWE earlier this summer and signed with AEW. It was his AEW debut at All In. It had some surprises to the match, and also the only bad thing I have to say is Christian Cage winning this match. Now, why Christian Cage won this match, I don't know. He just got a shot at the AEW title in May against Strickland and was unsuccessful. Then he just lost his trios titles earlier in the night. And just when it looked like Luchasaurus was going to finally become a babyface and turn on Christian Cage, he just helped Christian Cage win that contract to an AEW shot anytime he wants. And wrestlers like Hangman Adam Page or Ricochet probably could have benefited more from winning this Casino Gauntlet match compared to Christian Cage. That's the only letdown from this match, but the Gauntlet match was pretty good. Now, moving on to the next match, you had Will Ospreay defeat MJF for the internet to become the new international champion. Now, this was an incredible match between MJF and Will Ospreay. The chemistry that these two respective wrestlers have is pretty remarkable. And just when you thought they weren't going to top what they did in their 60-minute match that they had a few weeks ago on Dynamite, they just did it. And that was one hell of a match that we got at Dynamite during the summer and at AEW All In. And the spots I like during this match, the counters, the near falls, with the spots of MJF hitting across Rose and Will Ospreay hitting the Stormbreaker, it was just so good. And the return of Daniel Garcia was the icing on the cake. Punched MJF in the face and basically planted the seeds of what we're going to see between Daniel Garcia and MJF and All Out in a week's time. I like Will Ospreay winning back the International Championship. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in his second reign as the International Champion in AEW. Now, the next match, you had Mercedes Moné successfully retain her TBS Championship against Dr. Britt Baker. Now, I will say that this match was a letdown. It was okay at best, but I was expecting more from some of the best women's wrestlers, pound for pound, across all wrestling promotions right now, Mercedes Moné and Dr. Britt Baker. And this match just didn't live up to the hyper expectations. I don't know if the chemistry was off. I don't know if what was going on really between them, because both can wrestle at a much faster pace than we've seen in the past. And it was really a slow-paced match. I don't know what really went on. But Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker definitely should have gave us more. Hopefully this isn't the end of the feud, because they have so much more to offer and a much better match to offer us. Even with all the time they had, it just didn't. It seemed like the crowd wasn't into it until towards the end of the match, and that was just a letdown. And the finish was a little sloppy as well. Really wasn't proud of this match as well. Also, in the co-main event, you had Jack Perry successfully retain his TNT Championship against Darby Allin in a coffin match. I thought this was a pretty good match. We all know Darby Allin being a risk taker is always going to be his style. A young Jeff Hardy, I like to call him. But the match was pretty good itself. I don't have a problem with Jack Perry retaining the TNT Championship. The surprise here was the legend, the icon Sting, having Darby Allin's back when the Young Bucks came to make things worse after Darby Allin was unsuccessful of winning the TNT Championship. So it was a good surprise to see Sting once again at Wembley Stadium. And in the main event, you have Bryan Danielson win the AEW World Title against Swerve Strickland. This match was perfect. From start to finish, it was a great match. Hard hitting with great spots and counters all night long in that wrestling ring between Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland. But I will say the spots that stood out to me was when Swerve Strickland hit several house calls on Bryan Danielson in front of his wife, in front of his kids. And then you had the surprise of Hangman Adam Page trying to get his hands on Swerve Strickland in the middle of the match. But Bryan Danielson winning the AEW title was just a picture-perfect story for him. And a wrestling standpoint, he can now call himself a former Ring of Honor World Champion. I'm a former WWE Champion, now an AEW Champion. It will be interesting to see what he does next with the title. But I am happy that Bryan Danielson did win at All In. For everything that he's done in AEW, I'm surprised he hasn't won a championship, but this AEW World Title is well deserved by Bryan Danielson. He has been an MVP, one of the MVPs of AEW since he's arrived when he signed with the company back in 2021. Now, my thoughts on this card, I have to give this All In pay-per-view card an A, a letter grade of an A. From start to finish, this card was very great, stacked from top to bottom. I enjoyed the Trios ladder match with the Trios titles on the line. I enjoyed the Maria May versus Toni Storm AEW Women's World Title match. I enjoyed the triple threat tag team match of the Young Bucks, FTR, and the Acclaim. I enjoyed Will Ospreay versus MJF. I enjoyed the AEW Casino Gauntlet surprises of Ricochet coming to the company. I enjoyed the fact that we got a classic between Bryan Danielson and Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Title. I think this card was much better than the All In card from last year when Tony Khan and the rest of the executives thought it was a great idea to stack the card with several multi-man matches, several tag team matches. This year's format was much better. It results in a much better card. The only complaints I have is Hulk versus Chris Jericho and Mercedes Moon versus Britt Baker. I think those are the only letdowns from this card, but everybody else did their job, and I have to say this deserves a letter grade of an A. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.